Okay, let's talk free agency. We've got max contracts. We've got the Suns and the Lakers filling out their teams. We got the Bucks pretty much still intact. We got the Wizards being in a really interesting place to talk about, in my opinion. And before all that, like one thing I need to acknowledge for myself as I look at all these contracts, cap's going up, man. And so while there is the second apron now, which is very scary, also dudes are just going to get paid more on deals. But I do actually want to start with the Suns, because it was a big question after the Beal trade. How are they going to fill out the rest of this roster? And there's some interesting names. I mean, look, getting Eric Gordon for the money that they did, $3 million per season, that's a win. I mean, if Eric Gordon can still make his, damn near 30-footers attack off the catch, because he's a pretty strong dude, and he's always been okay at, guarding guys a little bigger than him just because he's strong and all that. No, he's certainly not going to compete for an all-defense team, but he's usually been able to hold his own defensively. Now, of course, he's a year older, but I mean, his shooting with KD, Book, and Beal, although I don't know who's going to be the fifth starter for the Suns, it's a nice fit. The Suns also got Bates-Diop, who can be a really versatile defender at the 3/4 spot, and while he didn't shoot a lot of threes last season, the percentages were good. That could be their best bet for a 3-and-D guy. We'll see if Torrey Craig comes back. We'll see if Okogie, who they have, we'll see if his 3-ball can just be good for them, because he's, of course, a good on-ball defender. They've got Watanabe to knock down corner threes. Eubanks is a fine enough backup big, and it does seem that Cameron Payne is the only technical point guard on the roster, him and Jordan Goodwin, who's on the books right now. Safe to say they're going to be leaning on Devin Booker a little bit more as a ball handler. I think within the realm of all we can do now is sign minimum contract guys, then I think the Suns did fine. Look, this is the way they've chosen to make the team. I mean, they've sent the pick swaps out for Beal, this is just what it's going to be, man. Unless they want to trade Ayton down the road, but as of right now, it seems like they're all in on Ayton. Now let's go to the Lakers. So, in terms of keeping their team together while just making some additions here and there, it seems like they did what they were trying to do, especially because they didn't have to break the bank for pretty much anybody. And I think they had a good offseason. Look, I mean, nobody gave Reeves the big offer, which it makes sense, because if anybody else would have given him the big offer, then they would have had to have waited for the Lakers to match, which it seemed like they were going to do anyway. And it's then it locks up your cap space while you're waiting for the Lakers and just that whole spiel. And everybody knows this, but I'll just say, let's see where Reeves can get to as a ball handler, pick and roll operator, guy who screens for LeBron or has LeBron screen for him, and also he can run your obvious screens with AD and stuff. Let's see where he can get to when they put more on his plate, kind of from the jump of the season, right? I'm sure they're satisfied with the numbers on D'Lo and Rui coming back. And then we got Gabe Vincent, who, look, Vincent, tough on-ball defender. I think he's a smart player when it comes to playing off of stars and working around screens or just relocating to where he can be in the right spot to catch something from AD or LeBron or Reeves or whoever it's going to be. He's a willing pull-up shooter. The question is just how many of the jump shots is he making, but for the money they got him at, I think Gabe Vincent definitely helps the Lakers. But still, the shooting percentages matter, and I mean, that's a definite loss for the Heat, no doubt. And of course, in the Celtics series, those threes were dropping. He shot over 50% from three in that series, and it still hurts me a little bit. Now look, they got Taurean Prince, okay, decent bet for a 3-and-D wing, cool. Cam Reddish, we've seen him do basically everything well at different parts of his career. We've very rarely seen him do multiple things well for a consistent stretch of time. Some of that is, playing time, and the whole Knicks trade thing was just super weird. I think at this point, the only thing left to find is just a good big who can back up AD, and then also you can try playing him with AD, similar to their championship season formula. And I know Jackson Hayes is on the roster, but I think you're going to need somebody else. Still, overall, good offseason for the Lakers. Let's go to Dylan Brooks on the Rockets. What is it, $20 million a year, basically, for 4 years? And in case you didn't see my video on the Fred Rockets thing, then I'll just do a little thing on that in a second. But first, for Brooks. Yeah, look, the 4 years feels like a tad too much. I mean, the $20 million per season also feels like a little too high just because of Dylan Brooks' shot selection. Look, he made all defense last regular season. I know he was a joke in the Lakers series, and I know it's been crap on Dylan Brooks' hour and all that. To act as if the dude doesn't belong in the NBA, it's a little much. At the same time, yeah, it feels like a little too much money and 1 year too long at least on the contract. But as I've said before with Houston, they more than most teams were in a position to be we got to pay somebody. Our whole team is on rookie contracts. Now I know that Jalen Green and Şengün's extensions are actually not that far away at this point. Look, Brooks will give him on-ball defense, he'll give him toughness, and he'll also take some frustrating shots, okay? I think they know what they're signing up for. Anyway, quick Fred recap in case you didn't see it. Yeah, it's way more money than anybody else was going to give him. I also think Fred now can allow them to hopefully get close to having a more structured offense. He can make threes. He can play on and off the ball. He can be a connector as a passer as well as a pick and roll decision maker, but it's also going to be a balancing act with the ball handling because Amen Thompson is a very good passer with a hell of a first step. Jalen Green can handle on-ball reps. Also want to see if Fred can develop a two-man game with Şengün. Also, Van Vliet's now got a team option on the last year of his thing, so okay. Okay, let's go to Jeremy Grant, which I mentioned this one a little bit in the Blazers thing, and yeah, look, 5 years, 160. Look, I get it, okay? Jeremy Grant holds up well defensively, has grown a lot as a shot creator, catch and shoot guy and all that, catch and drive guy, the whole thing. Good player. It's just like, did it have to be 5 for 160? I don't know. Maybe the Blazers' thought process was like, okay, so if Dame stays, then Grant helps us right now, and if Dame wants to get traded, then Grant just gives us a good wing throughout this next phase of Scoot and Shaden and Simons, and we can just tell ourselves, well, we're chill at power forward / whatever you want to technically say for position, because we got Grant. Still, I just don't like the 5 for 160. Let's get to the Kyrie contract. It's 3 years with a player option on the last year, $126 million total. I think given the circumstances of you had to keep him, but also you didn't want to tie everything to the dude either, it's probably the best you could ask for. And I've already seen some stuff come out where it's basically like, yeah, Dallas is well aware that they need to beef up their center and they need like one more wing spot, unless Rashawn Holmes can become Wilt Chamberlain. The fun part is who's actually available, I don't know. Unless Derek Lively can step in and be that dude. Also, they brought Seth Curry back, so that's cool. I kind of want to talk about the Wizards for a bit. So they brought Kuzma back. So all that noise about, are the Kings going to create cap space to go for Kuzma? That was not the case. They pretty much brought back Harrison Barnes, and they also got Sasha Vezenkov, and they also gave Sabonis that huge contract. But so for the Wizards, when you initially read it like 102 for 4, when you're using your like salary cap brain from 4 years ago, that sounds like a lot of money for Kuzma. And then you think about just how the cap's going up and all that, and it's like, well, the last year of his deal, he's making $28 million. By that point, the cap will have gone up by like a decent amount. And it's 4 years, not 5, like the Grant contract. And he's also making less per year than Grant. It seems okay enough. I think it's a tradable one. And I mean, I always say this with Kuzma, like his downhill juice, attack off the catch, straight line drive, physical drive, and all that stuff, transition. He's made a lot of progress with that stuff. And I think now the Wizards are certainly leaning more into the direction of what their fan base wanted for a minute. I mean, they got all those pick swaps in the Beal trade from the Suns, including like every second rounder the Suns had, basically. And so now you assume, look, Coulibaly, who's very athletic, he's got length and the wingspan, and he's already had like a little bit of something off the dribble. We'll see what they give him like in his first year with responsibilities in the offense. Kispert, we'll see if the three-point attempts go up. We'll see if Denny gets some more ball handling opportunities because he's a good passer and he's good defensively. And, when you have the assist-to-turnover king and Tyus Jones running the show, on top of the roller coaster that's going to be the Jordan Poole with a green light show, could the Wizards be a decent league pass team? I don't know how many games they're actually going to win, but in terms of like being a fun watch, it wouldn't shock me. At this point, I have no idea what order I'm really going in. Bruce Brown to the Pacers, 2 years, $45 million. Second year is a team option. The length of this deal on top of the team option makes the money per year just not really feel bad at all, to be honest. And if you want to look at their salary stuff on that second year, it's basically Halliburton's max, Miles Turner making like $19 million, and then a bunch of cheap contracts after that. As far as how Bruce Brown fits in, I'm imagining him screening for Halliburton because that's just always what I envision. But also, like the Nuggets showed us, you can give the ball to Bruce Brown. You can let him run some simple actions up top, like in a second unit sort of thing, and he could be okay for you. I mean, sometimes it can be that like floater that he goes to a lot, or he's just gonna be like a really physical driver. He's not the tallest dude, but he's strong as hell, right? Combine that with now they got Obi, who can hopefully now be the transition running, cutting, random screen setting guy that you would see on the Knicks, but Tibbs just wasn't going to play him and Randall together like that, which means that Obi was just kind of limited to 15 minutes per. On top of Jarris Walker, who also can be like a good passer in short roll situations and be a help defender next to Miles. Like, okay, Pacers definitely doing some things. If you wanted to be cynical, you could be like, well, look, Halliburton's the point, Mathurin is the 2, you still have Buddy Hield as well. I mean, Mathurin came off the bench last year, but you know what I mean. You're trying to get Nesmith minutes as well. Like, was the right move to get another guard? My reply to that would be, I think because of Bruce Brown being like a good sort of connector with his screen setting and being a decent enough passer and ball handler on top of being a good defensive player, I feel like he can just kind of fit in, man. I feel like the Cam Johnson contract, it's pretty similar to the Kuzma one. I mean, it's 4 years, 108. Kuzma's was 102. I don't have like incentives in front of me or whatever. But yeah, it feels like that might just be the going rate on like wings who can give you high teens, low 20s in points. I mean, Chris Middleton got a little bit more per season. He also got one less year. The Jeremy Grant one's still kind of wild because it's like he got more money per season than those two, and he got one more year. I guess that whole Pistons are going to offer Cam Johnson a crazy contract didn't really happen, huh? Or maybe that just didn't matter because the Nets were going to give him this. Yeah, the Pistons, they traded for Joe Harris. They'll probably make some shots for him. I think the Draymond and Pirtle contracts are both chill. Some more random ones, though. We got DiVincenzo to the Knicks. And so now we got, look, Brunson's your starting point. Grimes, RJ's your starting three. You got Josh Hart off the bench. You got Quickly off the bench. Now you have DiVincenzo off the bench unless Tibbs wants to mess around with the starting five over he wants to. Like, I do fear that it's one too many bodies trying to get certain rotation spots. Now, the one thing you can say is, yeah, well, Josh Hart can guard guys bigger than him, and Quickly was such a good overall defensive player this past year that you can kind of play him with more lineups than a normal guard. Like, I see the way to get there, and for what it's worth, I think DiVincenzo gives them another perimeter player who can attack off the catch and make the next play and also make open jumpers and stuff. Like, DiVincenzo is a fine rotation piece. So we'll see. I mean, of course, Tibbs and his rotations is always a bit of a thing where it's like, wait a minute, this guy's just not in the rotation anymore? Okay, but again, those are all good players. Max Strus to the Cavs. Hey, man, Cleveland, they're just going to keep betting on as many wings as they can. You know, Karras is their kind of like do a little bit of everything on offense guy. Okoro's their defender. Strus is the shooter. They technically got him through a sign and trade, and the money per year, it's not like a gross overpay, but it's certainly like a, hey, Max Strus, we really need you to be awesome. Because it's, what, 4 for 63? And look, I don't know if the Heat are going to get Dame or whatever, but losing Vincent and Strus, that definitely matters for them. I know they got Jay Rich coming back and all that, but okay. What have I forgotten? Vooch back to the Bulls, 3 years for $60 million. So Zach Lowe on his podcast, he basically said, like, the Bulls are going to try to bring Vooch back on a contract that doesn't make Bulls fans vomit. And to be fair, maybe any contract for Vooch was going to make some Bulls fans be like, what the hell? I do think in the world of preserving assets or losing them for nothing and all that, I think it's fine. On top of the fact that, like, yeah, I get it. There's a blondness to the Bulls right now. Vooch is decent. He's going to give you 17 and 10. He's going to make his pick and pop jumpers. I think it's a movable deal, you know, for a team that's just looking for some sort of a jump start at center. Like, I don't know if you're going to get that offer this year. And if Vooch ever gets moved off of this contract, I don't think the Bulls are going to get anything comparable to what they gave up for him. But I feel like it leaves their options open while also giving them just decent enough play at center because he also like barely ever gets hurt. We got a whole bunch of max contracts, LaMelo, Halliburton, Edwards. None of those were a surprise. The Desmond Bane one, I did have a moment of like, oh, Desmond Bane got a max. At the same time, it's like the dude averaged 21 points a game. He was one of the best shooters in the league. They've put more on his plate as far as being a ball handler. It's like, it's not really shocking to look at. I just kind of had to have a moment of like, okay. And the last thing that I will say is that the Clippers getting KJ Martin for like a couple second rounders seems like a good move. I just like KJ Martin. Feels like a dude who can just be on a winning team right now and just set screens, cut to the basket, whatever else, even though he's a perimeter player. So, yeah, man.